If they hear your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit thinking, here comes a payday.
I wonder what that's going to be about. Hey everybody, welcome back to Grandparents React. I'm Wanda.
I'm Ricky.
And we're glad that you've joined us as we're once again on this journey of exploring videos from all around the world.
Yep.
I'm scrolling a list now of all the places that we've already reacted to videos from, all the different countries. And hope you're enjoying this journey right along with us. And tonight we're going to be reacting to a new channel called Lost in the Pond. And the name of this video is 5 Ways British and American Meal Etiquette is Very Different. Now, meal etiquette can be very different in America. Simple everyday folks like us, it may be
the South is different from the North.
It is, and also, you know, what circles you've traveled in, even in your own city, you know. Some people, I would say, are maybe more sophisticated than us and might have totally different etiquette than we have. We try not to be rude. I guess that's about it right there. We try not to be rude. But I'm looking forward to this. It might be very interesting to see what it might be like in Great Britain as opposed to America. If you all like our reaction tonight, be sure and give us a thumbs up, which is the like button. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel.
Hit the notification bell and share this video.
That would be fantastic.
Puts us out there.
Yeah. All right, you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Here we go.
If they hear your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit thinking, here comes a payday.
That's gonna be about.
Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to how we eat, dining etiquette. It's so important, especially when you're meeting your American family for the first time. I'm not talking from experience, maybe just a bit. Cultural differences around the dinner table don't just come down to the words we use, like chips versus fries, or the dishes that we serve. So, you know, America's pecan pie versus Britain's spotted dick. And that is an actual dessert, okay? Look it up, just not on your work computer. But it's also about some of the mechanisms that we use to get it into our mouths. I'm still talking about food. And also some of the customs and politeness norms that comes with the process of eating. And so without further crab rangoon, here are 5 ways that British and American eating etiquette is very, very different. Whether you call it cutlery, like we do in Britain, or silverware or flatware, or in this case plasticware, because, you know, we are rationing, we can all agree that without them, meal times would be very, very messy, especially in America where they put sauce on everything. But the real question is, how do we hold them? And this was part of my existential crisis after I moved to the United States, because I grew up learning the European style, or as it might be known here, the continental style. And when I say that, I'm referring to what is the official utensil etiquette, right? As opposed to the official American etiquette. And I'm going to show you, I think anyway, some of the differences. I personally don't have either etiquette completely down because, in my wife's words, I still eat like a toddler. But it mostly comes down to how we hold the fork. In Britain, you hold it kind of like that, I think. So you've got it, the end of it's touching your palm, and then you sort of grasp it with your thumb and your pointy finger, and it's there for pointing downward, right? And you stick it into the potatoes or the strawberries or the spotted dick. And notice it's in my left hand. That's going to be important in a moment. And in the other hand, you have your knife, right? Usually like this, with the pointy finger right there, and it's touching your palm again. So consistent on both hands, right? It's almost an extension of you. You're almost Wolverine, but from the United Kingdom or Europe. And then you do this, right? Usually at a lower level. You wouldn't be able to see it because my arms are off screen now, so I'll put them back there. And then you cut into the potatoes or the strawberries or the creamy spotted dick. I mean, you can come with custard. That's normal. And voila, put it in your mouth. There's nothing on this. This isn't that scene in Hook where they eat invisible food. It goes this way round, right? With the tines facing downward toward your tongue. In America, it's quite a bit different, right? So people will hold their fork like this, with the tines facing upward. In other words, to kind of scoop up the food, right? So they'll do that. And actually, sometimes, not every time, I mean, I'm sure there are people that circumvent all of the things you hear in this very list, but sometimes Americans won't even use a knife, right? You'll just see them scoop something up, maybe a potato. We won't go through the entire list again, put it in their mouth. If they want to cut up things in that way, sometimes I'll do it with the fork, right? Don't recommend it with plastic forks. You know, you can get through these pretty quickly if you do that. But if they do use a knife, they may turn the fork like this into the potato and then cut like that. You've got it there, you turn it back around, it's in your gob, and there you go. Bob's your uncle, you've got potatoes. And, you know, that's what a lot of Americans do. My father-in-law, though, did this. He had it like that and like that. He'd turn it that way, and then like that. It sort of looked, I should tell you that my in-laws were cavemen. But it was through those very cavemen / dear relatives of my wife that I was first introduced to our next entry.
Now, hang on a second. He didn't even mention the people like me who will swap out the knife with the fork if you're going to cut something. I got the fork in my right hand when I'm eating. If I need to cut something like a steak, then I'm going to move the fork to my left hand so I can use the right hand with the knife to cut it. And then
I do that too, because
switch it back to eat.
This hand don't cut good. I'm trying to hold it.
But I think that's something that
hold the fork like that.
Maybe that's a Southern tradition, or maybe that's a bad etiquette thing that a lot of people do. But I mean, I do that. I switch them out. He didn't mention that. I'm surprised. He's funny.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on with this next one.
Yes, saying grace. This one is quite a tough entry in many ways because, you know, in order to talk about it, I do have to somewhat generalize. And also, I don't have much data to back up what I'm about to say. It's more observationally driven, right? So when I lived in England for 27 years of my life, I don't say that with disdain. It was a good time. But in all that time, I don't really remember sitting down to a dinner function of any kind and really sort of saying grace beforehand. In other words, kicking off the meal with a sort of faith-based thanks. Now, part of that, and again, this is where the generalization comes in, so bear with me, but in England, we tend to be less sort of like publicly open, or just sort of even privately open, if you can be, among your family members about your religious beliefs. Whereas in the United States, I think people are more sort of proud of that, whatever their religious faith is. And so sometimes in some families, and this again could be regional, so I might well be generalizing, but some families, including the extended relatives that I married into, I didn't marry them, I married into the family. Some families, and I gather maybe quite a lot of families here in the United States, particularly at special events like Thanksgiving or maybe even a homecoming of some kind, will sort of say grace before the meal. And there'll usually be one family member who stands up and says it on behalf of the entire group. And then you say amen and go about your way. For me, it was quite weird at first, I think. Now, I'm very respectful of other people's religious beliefs. I didn't really know what to do except just sort of sit there and then wait for it to be done. And then, because I had half a mind on the turkey. So what are you going to do? And because I'm generalizing here, it's important for me to say that
we say grace before every meal.
Yeah.
At a restaurant, it don't matter where you're at, we always say grace.
Right. We always give thanks. And that's our family tradition and our Christian faith teaching, that you always say thanks before you have a meal.
Right.
Thanking God for the food. But even within our family, within our circle, sometimes we all get together. Other people might not think about doing that, and then we'll always say, "Hang on, let's give thanks first. Let's say a prayer."
Yeah.
And so that's something that we traditionally do. Now, I would say in a restaurant setting, I would say most people don't. Or at least you don't notice them saying it.
Right. So
sometimes you'll see somebody very quietly bow their head, and if we go out with our family, we will say a quick prayer of thanks, but quietly. It's not like something standing up and everybody to witness.
We don't say it silently, but we don't say it loud.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a family gathering with a lot of people, then a lot of times you're louder.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. If you're like when say your whole family gets together, or my whole family, brothers and sisters and their kids and all that get together, we'll choose somebody to say the prayer.
Right.
And they'll say it nice and loud where everybody can hear, so that you know when it's done and you can eat. All right, let's continue on.
This is my experience. I'd be very interested to hear other people's experiences, other Europeans' experiences of coming here and maybe having to say grace when they're not used to it, or, Americans that don't themselves practice this. I've also heard it can go one step further here where the whole family holds hands. I definitely draw the line at that, especially right now. The best way that I can put this for British people watching back home is, in football when, somebody dies and they have a minute's silence within the stadium, and then when the minute's silence is up, they all erupt in applause and all of that. It's kind of like that, minus the applause. It's just an amen. But the energy after that is great because you all want to tuck into your food. And because the energy's so good, that leads us on to our next entry. Oh, I don't mind a bit of chatter and exceptionally weird noises. And at an American dinner table, you're going to get a lot of chatter. Usually, again, this is another generalization, but on the whole, this is my experience. And I'm one of those people who doesn't think that Americans are always loud, as the stereotype dictates. But one exception tends to be in restaurants, right? I do hear the volume go up there as compared to Britain, where it feels like we're always battling with this war within ourselves to not air our dirty laundry in public. I'm not saying we don't talk at dinner tables, don't get me wrong. It feels observationally, once again, and again, there's no data on this. There's not somebody going around measuring the decibels in every restaurant in either country, especially right now because they're all closed. But that's my general experience of it. Now, I could be getting thrown off course a little bit here because, my wife's family are really loud. Don't tell them I said that, although this is a public video. They know it's true. I've told them before, and that's why we've not spoken in a year. But here in America, you might be in a restaurant, sitting down with just one other person, trying to have a quiet, intimate conversation. And to your right, there's this really loud family with a 5-year-old running around with a stupid hat on that he got from the restaurant, right? So they're further enhancing the volume of said family. And then on the other side, there's clearly what is a date happening. And the woman is just sitting there quietly, looking quite glum, while the man very audibly and haphazardly talks about all of the Fortune 500 companies he's worked for. And she stares into space, presumably thinking of all the ways that she can get out of there. But on the other hand, once you do get used to that sort of raised volume, it does add to the atmosphere, and if you're already in a good mood and you enter somewhere where thousands, that's a huge restaurant, hundreds maybe, where there's lots of people and they're in a good mood and it just sort of bounces off the walls, But speaking of restaurants, that brings us on to our next.
Pause it here for just a second. Usually, if we're in a restaurant and there's some adults that are being exceptionally loud, my first thought is they've had too much to drink. Seems like when people drink, that they can't hear as well as they would before, and so they think they need to talk louder. But yeah, usually if you sit through a meal and you just eat and you're quiet, not saying anything, it's like something must be wrong or something,
Yeah.
That is a normal thing for us to talk, have conversations
Sit
while
around
we're
the
eating.
dinner table and eating and have a conversation.
Yep. All right, let's
Entry.
continue on.
Servers. My heart does go out to all of the servers and anybody else to whom this applies around the world who can't go into work right now. And a huge thank you to delivery servers who are able to keep people fed who might need it. But, back in peacetime when the restaurants were still open, there was quite a marked difference between, British servers and American servers and the way they sort of conduct themselves at the dinner table while you're eating your dinner. In Britain, they're quite standoffish, and I know that's just a trait of British people in general, I get that, but they don't have the incentive, which we'll talk about in a minute, to constantly be coming back to your table and seeing how you're doing, checking if you need a refill on that water, because you probably won't get one anyway. I'm joking, of course you'll get a free refill on your water, just nothing else. Often, know this, if you want their attention, you're going to have to get their attention yourself, and that includes when it comes time to pay the bill. Whereas in the United States, and each restaurant has its different policy on this, You know, the waiting staff will come to your table every 5 minutes, usually, just to see how you're doing. And it seemingly doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a seriously one-sided conversation about the Fortune 500 companies you've worked for. They will still come over and go, hey, what's up? How's that tenderloin working out for you? And there are a couple of big reasons, I think, that American serving staff do this. Firstly, the company often dictates it. It's seen as a kind of data-driven way of, you know, having good customer service. But having good customer service could well dictate this.
Pause that for a second. You know, there's been times where a server may come so often that you begin to think, oh, they want us to hurry up and get through and get out of here. You know, it's like, no, you just asked me, I'm fine, let me eat my food. But then sometimes they disappear.
You don't say that to them.
No, then sometimes I won't say that to them. But then sometimes you're wanting a refill on your drinks, and that's kind of tradition in most restaurants, is that soft drinks, you get free refills. Mm-hmm. But they may disappear, and you wish they would hovering around a little bit. And, you know, one thing that I've been told is that in traditional restaurants, like in Mexico, south of the border, it would be considered rude for the server to ask you, are you ready for your check or your ticket or, you know, your bill? And here, I know in Tennessee, you know, we just figure they're going to bring it to us when we begin to get through, you know, close to the end of our meal, you know. But I have seen sometimes where you have to ask for it, so that's interesting differences. All right, let's continue on.
Have they tried antifreeze with that? No. Well, he might go back to his milk phase eventually. Yeah. So the dreaded tip, or at least it was dreaded to me when I first moved to America, actually, when I landed at Philadelphia Airport. This is the first time I remember having to sort of navigate the American tipping system because I bought a drink at a bar at that very airport. And having bought the Jack Daniels, or 6, I'm not a good flyer. I turned to the gentleman next to me and I asked him, how does tipping work? And, you know, he very, very kindly offered, well, whatever the amount is on your receipt, just give them 85% of that. And that's about good. That's standard. That was a lie. And I ended up almost bankrupt. Firstly, in the United States, regardless of the amount, it's very much expected that you do tip because that's basically how servers make their wage. And the standard amount that you're expected to tip is the complete opposite of 85%. It's 15%, right? But if you thought it was good service, or just to be sort of a good person, really, you can definitely tip more than that. I typically tip, just try saying that after 6 whiskeys. I did that night. I typically tip, particularly if I'm on a trip, 20%, or, you know, I might even round up to 21 if it kind of requires it. Tipping of some kind is expected here. In the UK, if you're thinking of going there, firstly, don't do that right now. But, you know, if after all this blows over, you are fancying going to the UK, then you're not required to tip at all, right? I mean, people get paid a sort of living wage, more or less, for being a server in the UK. It's good practice. You know, if you want to do that, you certainly can. 10% is recommended. And, you know, growing up in the UK, I never really did tip all that often, I must say. I think if I were to live there now, I probably would do so a bit more. It's not expected. I mean, servers aren't going to expect you to tip. Although, if they hear your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit thinking, here comes a payday, right? Whereas it's the other way round here. As soon as servers hear a British accent, they must be filled with dread. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe servers hear a British accent and think, he's ripe for manipulation. You know, I've had some bad experiences. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me today. And, you know, it's kind of sad that I couldn't practice a lot of these things for the video, except for the knives and forks, you know, and those were the last plastics I have. As ever, a reminder that you can keep up with me and all my stupid ramblings on Twitter at Lost in the Pond US. And if you've not had a chance to do so, why not subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond? As ever, a big shout out to all my patrons who make spoons like this one possible. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Until next time, keep eating, keep happy, and I will see you soon.
He is really funny.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Now, about tipping, I would say definitely before COVID, maybe it's, 10 years ago, 15% would be considered a good tip. If somebody did a good job, they get 15% tip. You give them 15% tip.
Right.
And they didn't do a very good job, you may give them just 10%, or if they did a lousy job, you wouldn't give them anything, and that was okay. The tipping was to reward them for doing a good job.
But it's not now.
It's not now. And nowadays here in America, at least here in Tennessee, if you give somebody a 15% tip, it's almost like an insult. And more like 18 or 20%. Now a lot of these places, they'll bring you this thing to sign, the digital little keypad thing, and it'll already, it'll come up, do you want to give a tip, and it'll automatically be, there's no 15% on there. A lot of them start 18 or 20%, 25%, or you can override it and key in the amount you want to give, but they're obviously not expecting as low as 15% anymore. Yeah. And even though the prices of everything has gone up so much, 15 or 20% of the bill now is a whole lot more than it was years ago or right before COVID, But I also understand that here in the United States, these restaurants are not required to pay minimum wage. They pay a piddly amount of money to their servers, and then their servers can make really good money off of tips. But nowadays, you just don't do just 15% anymore.
Unless you're a cheap
Your friends and relatives that are eating out with you are going to be frowning on you if they see you do such a thing. They may slip some more extra on there. But this was really interesting, this video.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Yeah, and he is funny. He is funny. If you have any other videos by Lost in the Pond that you would like for us to react to, just put it in the comments below. I'll also have a link to his video and his channel in the description of this video. If you liked our reaction, be sure and give us a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel.
It's free, and it helps us a lot.
It really does help our channel. And if you share this on social media, that'd be fantastic. I'm not sure how many edits I'll have to do to this particular video to make sure I'm not infringing on any copyright restrictions. But our full reaction video will go up right away on our Patreon account, and that's at patreon.com/grandparentsreact. I'm scrolling the list now of the patrons that we already have. There's a few of them.
And you can be a patron for as low as $1 a month.
For as little as $1 a month, or the equivalent of whatever country and monetary system you all use. But we really appreciate those patrons, and they get to see our videos right away without the extra edits and without the additional wait time that everyone else sometimes has to have here on YouTube or on Rumble. But we really appreciate our patrons.
Yes, we do.
And if you have any other travel videos for other countries or other topics that you'd like for us to react to, just put that in the comments. And while you're commenting, if you would, tell us where you're from.
Yeah, because we keep a list of countries that people are commenting from all over the world.
Yes, we just get a kick out of it when somebody tells us where they're watching from. And that list of places, I've kept a list of all the places, and it's too long to scroll right here. But as soon as we get through with this video, and after video will automatically play, and at the beginning of that, I'll scroll all the places that we've heard from as of today.
A bunch of them.
Yeah. And I think that's all, huh?
I believe that's it.
We'll make sure you all know that Jesus loves you.
And we love you too.
We do. Thanks, everybody.
Peace.
You're still here? It's over.
Are y'all still here?
Thanks everybody for sticking around. Since you did, let's talk some more about what's going on with Grandparents React.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling a list now of all the different countries and cities and states and places that people have gone into our comments and given us a shout out. And we really love our viewers. We really appreciate you guys. You guys have introduced us to so much new music. And we're just having a great time with that.
Yep.
And yeah, if you'll go into our comments and tell us where you're from, that'd be cool. But just to chat with us on the comments, we get a kick out of that. We read every comment and try to respond to all of them and keep a list of all the recommendations people give us. Really having a good time with that. As we said earlier in the video, sometimes we have to do special video edits. When we first started our channel, there were times that we would stop the music, but we just really, the music's the important part.
Yeah.
And so we just let the music roll. And sometimes people go in the comments and say, but if you'll stop it real often, then they'll let you monetize it. It'll get past the restrictions on the copyrights. But we're just not going to do that. There's a lot of our videos on our channels that we'll never make a penny off of because of the fact that we don't do that. We just like to let that music roll, and we really appreciate the extra support that sometimes people will do. Sometimes people will become a member of our Patreon. They become a patron, and that's at patreon.com/grandparentsreact. And those folks get to see all of our videos, the full videos without all the extra edits. And sometimes there are some exclusives that are on Patreon that aren't on YouTube. So if you ever decide to become a patron, that's at patreon.com/grandparentsreact. And that's one way that you can give us the extra support, since we don't, most of our videos we don't make any money off of. And there's also that super thanks button.
Yeah.
That's a way that for anybody that has a YouTube channel, whether it's the group themselves or an artist or a YouTuber or a YouTube channel like ours, if you see that heart-shaped super thanks button, that means you can click on that and give them a one-time gift, like a tip that you can give, and it can be a very small amount.
Say thank you.
To say thank you for doing that video. And that also helps our channel.
Yeah.
And we also just recently started a CashApp if somebody wanted to send us money directly to help build up our channel. And I'm scrolling on the screen now our CashApp account name, and I think it's $Grandparents React. And I'll also put that in the description of this video, so you can find it there. But and also, if you don't have a Cash App and you're thinking about setting one up, if you'll use our link, our coupon code, you can get $5 free from Cash App. Doesn't cost us anything. It's just something Cash App does to say thank you for joining up. So there's that in our description as well. And our address is there as well, a mailing address if you wanted to send us something. So there's different ways you can support our channel, but just coming and watching and subscribing and sharing videos, all those things are free, and that really helps us out a lot. We really appreciate you all for doing that. And I think that's all.
I believe you covered it.
Thank you all for sticking around and chatting with us a little bit longer.
We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Peace.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.